I am Nick. I've just walked into the cinema. I'm almost here actually. I'm just kind of on the outskirts of the cinema location. Um, but I'm here to see Juror number 2, a new film by Clint Eastwood, a courtroom drama starring Nicholas Hoult. That's about as much as I know about the film, if I'm completely honest. I saw a bit of a trailer on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. But I didn't. It popped up, but I didn't hear the audio. I just saw, from director Clint Eastwood, saw some footage of Nicholas Hoult. And I was like, okay, I'm interested because, he's made some interesting films of late. I really enjoyed Richard Jewell. Obviously, Gran Torino was the last one he kind of really acting as well, but, that was a good film. But it's kind of gone under the radar, this one. It's kind of come out and no one's talking about it, and it's not really got many screenings either at my local cinema. Just one screen about 3 times a day. So I don't know. I don't know if this is because they've got no faith in it, or, to be fair, most of his recent films, like Richard Jewell, and there was one on a train, I think it was the 3:15 to Paris or something. I need to check it out, what it was called. But they didn't have big releases either. So I don't know exactly what Warners are doing with these films that he's making, but I don't seem to be pushing them very much. I'm not sure why, but that's not going to turn me. I want to see this film. I'm going to see this film, and I'll give you my thoughts about this film after this. Right, so I'm back from seeing Juror number 2. It was too dark for me to film properly. I did film something on TikTok while I was out, but it was way too dark. So I thought I'd wait till I get home to record my review here for YouTube. So what was interesting was when I left the cinema, or sorry, not as I left the cinema, as people were leaving the screening, they were talking about the film, and they were talking about what score they would give it out of 10. And I heard a few people say, oh, it's a 5 out of 10 film. And it's unusual because I can't tell you the last time I heard anybody in a screening of a film that I was seeing score a movie like that. It was quite bizarre. But it was interesting nonetheless. So Juror number 2, like I said, I went in without seeing a trailer, so whether or not you want to do the same thing or not, I'm not sure. But to kind of keep it spoiler free, Nicholas Hoult plays a character called Justin Kemp, a recovering alcoholic, has a pregnant wife who had some previous difficulties trying to be pregnant with a child, and she's in her last trimester. And he gets called up for jury service, and neither of them are happy about it, and obviously they're hoping that he doesn't actually get put forward onto an actual jury, but that is what happens. And it's a murder case where somebody's accused of murdering their partner, and it becomes apparent quite quickly that Justin, although selected for the jury because he has no knowledge of the person on trial or the case itself, actually appears to know more than even he believed at the beginning. And I think that's enough to kind of give you an idea of what the film is about without kind of getting into great detail or spoilers. Also in the film cast is Toni Collette, J.K. Simmons, Chris Mazzina, and Zoe Dutch, not sure. But her, anyway. She plays Justin's wife in the film. Toni Collette plays the prosecutor. Chris Mazzina is the defendant. I think that's a legal term. And J.K. Simmons plays somebody else on the jury who has their own kind of story in the film. I like a courtroom drama, and although I didn't obviously like Joker because it shouldn't have been a courtroom drama and it was also musical, but I do like kind of courtroom films. I like films where you are trying to, uncover what's going on. You're trying to work out what's real, what's not, who's innocent, who's guilty. So I really like films where there's a court case involved, or it's based around that. There was a program when I was growing up called Murder One, and it's quite unusual in that it was I can't remember how many parts it was in, maybe 20, 25 episodes, but it was one court case the entire season, just one case that was on trial, and you were seeing it, week by week, as the days rolled on the trial. So I've always kind of liked this kind of genre of things. And I really enjoyed this film. I thought it was really interesting. I liked Clint Eastwood and his way of kind of crossing things over. So at times you were hearing Toni Collette's Faith Kilbrew tell her side of the case, and then you also heard the defendant. What was his name? That's going to bug me now. I forgot his character name. Eric Resnick. You heard his version of the evidence that was just presented, right? So, and what he was doing was he was kind of crisscrossing those over. So you'd hear what she had to say, and then immediately hear what he said, cutting across the two narratives. And I'm sure it's been done before, but I really like. I thought when it was done the way it was, it really kind of showed the moral quandary, right? The good and the bad, the black and the white, the right and the left. It was really interesting to hear the same evidence but presented in a different way, because that's the narrative that they're putting over to the jury, right? So I really enjoyed this film. It's not like the best film of the year or anything like that, but the one thing that happened to me in this film, which hasn't happened for quite a while now, is it didn't drag. I didn't think it dragged, and I never, during the time I was watching the film, I never looked at my watch to see how long I might have left to go. I'm never sure when a film's going to finish, but if I go into a film knowing it's 2 hours long, and I look at my watch and it's, an hour and 30 minutes since the film started, I know roughly how long the film's got to go, right? That's what I'm kind of talking about. With this, I didn't. I was captivated, I was gripped, I wasn't sure what the next twist or turn was going to be, or how it was going to end up. I really, didn't know for sure where it might end up. And I think the interesting thing here is it plays on, what is right and what is wrong. And is making something right not be right because it might be better than if you use the actual truth. Like, it's very interesting. It's very, very grey areas, and I thought it was really well done. I thought the story was interesting, and it kept me captivated. And one thing I didn't even realise until I told my wife about it on the way home, was that, Toni Collette and Nicholas Hoult obviously worked together before on About a Boy. I hadn't put two and two together. I just, it's a film that I've really enjoyed, and I've watched quite a few times, although not for a long time. And when I was thinking of it, I was thinking, oh yeah, Nicholas Hoult from About a Boy, that Hugh Grant film, which is also kind of true. He was like on the front of the posters and everything like that. But, Toni Collette was, the co-lead in that film. And I just didn't even put two and two together that, they'd worked together, 20 odd years ago now, on About a Boy, and then they were working together on this. And, it was really interesting. I think the cast were good. J.K. Simmons, I could have done with a bit more him, but then when would you ever say you could do with less him? Do you know what I mean? Like, he's always great fun to watch. What's interesting is this has had a very limited release in America. I think it's on like 50 screens or something in America, which is amazing when you think that there are literally thousands upon thousands of screens in America, and it's being shown in a very small amount. In the UK, it's in a much wider release. Apparently, they were discussing it maybe going straight to Max in America, and that's why they kind of decided to give it a cinema release, but just a very small one. But I think it deserves better than this. I think it deserves to be seen by an audience, and I really enjoyed it. I was quite surprised by the 5 out of 10 scores. I think it was much better than that. Not groundbreaking, but more than a 5 out of 10. My score for this film is 7 out of 10. I think that's fair. I enjoyed it. I thought the casting was good. I thought the story was engaging and interesting. You weren't really sure where it was going to end up. Like sometimes you kind of think, and then you're less surprised or whatever. But I really enjoyed this. I thought it was really good, and I hope it does get some recognition. I hope people do give it a chance, and I hope whenever it hits Max in America that it gets the audience it clearly deserves and should have had in America right now, but it's not. So yeah, I enjoyed this, and I hope you do too. If this sounds like the kind of film that you can watch, then definitely seek out Juror number 2. I think you won't be disappointed. Or maybe you might be a little bit disappointed. Maybe you think it's a 5 out of 10 film, but I definitely enjoyed it. It was worth it for me. So yeah, I hope you do discover it, and let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And of course, until next time, remember that Flynn lives.